Nathaniel Cade Morrison. Tessa
Aw.
Ivan Hinojosa, cum laude.
Love you. I love you so
Mackenzie
much.
Claire Estrada.
Alright, and we're live. Nathan Burnett, episode 63, guys. So, lots to address right out of the gate. Obviously, we got a new layout. So, I hope you guys enjoy it. We got the topics scrolling on the right side here. We got a live chat box, and, you know, it looks a lot more professional. Just for reference, actually, I don't have it on here anymore. I was going to show you the old one, but I already got rid of the old one. So, but hopefully you guys like this new layout. I like it, so it's a bit more professional. So hopefully you guys like that. We also got some transitions now too. A couple of them are broken. I'm not gonna lie. So these are definitely not the final transitions, but I'll give you guys a little sneak peek here. So I haven't decided yet if I like it better on the screen like this, or if I'd rather switch it to a new scene and then switch it back. And then some of them are just kind of broken. Like, I have to fix this Nuggets one, as y'all can see here. I think it's kind of funny, but I gotta fix it because it's broken, y'all will see. So, yeah. And then the Celtics one just doesn't work because the green screen is the same color as the jersey. So I gotta fix that, but production value is definitely going up around here. Y'all can see this OKC one, this Clippers one. We got a Lakers. I tried to do as many teams that were in the playoffs as I could. So... And then we got this Wolves one, which I think is pretty sick. I gotta fix the text, but we got the wolf in the back. Mavs. You know, I think it looked good. So let me know what you guys think about that one. But second of all, a lot of you guys have probably been wondering where I've been at. I did the Raptors video, and I made an announcement saying that that was going to be my last video for a while. And it, in fact, was my latest video so far, which was about a month ago, I think, at this point. But long story short, I've been finishing up with school, and I officially graduated. So if you guys follow me on Instagram, which I'll switch to here, this is my Twitter right here. I tweeted that we're live. Go ahead and follow me on Instagram if you haven't already. But I posted on my personal and I posted it on the Nathan Burnett account. So, I got my mom and my brother here. So they've already both shown their faces on my channel. So, I wasn't too worried about posting them on my podcast channel. But here's some videos. But I am officially a college graduate, and I put the logo on the cap because I wanted you guys to be along for the ride. And the rest of this cap is sort of inside jokes, or not inside jokes, but things that are personal to me. So they're long stories, but the idea of the cap is to have things on there that I've worked on throughout college outside of school. So the B's have to do with that, and then the logo has to do with that. Where, again, I'm taking you guys along for the ride, where these are things that I have put my time into outside of school. So I wanted you guys to be included in that. So if you want more cool stuff like this, like we have this post here, which I'm going to show y'all later when we talk about the playoffs. Go follow my Instagram, Nathan Burnett with 3 T's. But I actually have the cap here if y'all wanted a closer look at it. So I finished in computer science, which is why I have this up here. I'll do the other side. I always got to remember the camera is mirrored, which is why I have this here. This is an infinite loop code that basically says anything that I think or I dream about, I'm going to make. End of story. So it's an infinite loop to where I will always follow through on my ideas. And some of y'all that are into binary as well, this is just basically my school in binary. This is just UTSA in binary. And then again, we have the logo here. So this was done, I came up with the design, and then my mom helped me cut it out and put it on the cap. So shout out to Mama Gingy. But I thought you guys would like to know that I'm officially a college graduate. So I'm gonna probably go get my master's again here soon. But for now, that's what I've been up to, and that's why I haven't uploaded in a while. But hopefully, now that I am done with school, for the time being at least, that will give me more time to do this with y'all. So I originally wanted to make a video about each of these playoff series, right? But I felt like that would have kind of been bad for y'all. I wanted to do what I liked to do, what I thought was best, and I don't want to do what's just easy, right? I want to do something that's worthwhile to you guys and something that I can put my pride into. So I could have just released a video on every playoff series, and if the Clippers versus Mavs video, which I am still going to do a video on that one, so that one's a bad example. But let's say the Heat versus Celtics. I could have done a video on that one, released it after the Celtics won, got 100 views on it or whatever it is, and done the same thing for the other series. Released a Pacers versus Knicks video, gets 100 views, whatever. And then I do that for every series. So let's say I do it for 8 games or whatever it is, or 8 series. That's 800 views right there. But some of the series I didn't have too much to talk about, and I don't want to oversaturate the channel with just 10 3-minute long videos or whatever it ends up being. That's not fair to you guys, and that's something that I want to be proud of, just basically uploading to get the views. So what I did instead is I decided that I would just combine them, and talk about it in a podcast episode, because I haven't uploaded a podcast for y'all in a while. And I know that my podcasts don't get that many views sometimes, because they are longer form videos, and sometimes the longer form videos don't do as well, except if it's about my team timeline videos, which again I uploaded the Raptors one, and y'all seem to love the team timeline videos, so I'm gonna keep doing those. But I'm more proud doing this than I would be, again, just pumping out content. So we're gonna go ahead and talk about the series. I got them all on the right here. Some I have more to say than others, but we're going to go ahead and get through them. And also, a little surprise for you guys is I'm also recording with Up the Score today, talking about the playoffs as well, which means that because I have not uploaded in a while, y'all are basically going to get back-to-back uploads of the podcast. So if you guys do like the podcast, then that's a little surprise for y'all. Y'all get episode 63 and then episode 64 right afterwards, because they're going to be recorded on the same day. So again, little fun for you guys. But with that being said, again, just getting some announcement stuff out the way. I mean, it wouldn't be a Nathan But Net podcast if we didn't have 5-10 minutes of announcements beforehand. But we can finally go ahead and start talking about some basketball stuff. So let's get into it. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Clippers versus Mavs. Clippers versus Mavs. I got a lot to say about this series, because before the year ended, I think it was December 10th was the exact date, I made a video saying that the Clippers are not going to make it past the first round. And I said that the Harden trade will not work out for them. And I made the comparison that it's going to be exactly the same as the Brooklyn Nets Somebody's going to get injured. That injury is going to fail them. And that's exactly what happened. I had a lot of Clippers fans, a lot of Harden fans, come out of the woodwork, leave some comments being like, you don't know what you're talking about, you don't know ball, and everything like that. And I was proven right. So, which, again, if I go to my Instagram here, let me go here. I'm going to pull up my bracket real quick. Where's it at? Okay, it had to load more. I've predicted every series so far almost to the exact game, which is why the title of this episode is going to be Nathan Knows the Script. The only series I've gotten wrong so far is Pacers-Knicks. And that's because the Knicks got injured in the last couple games of the series. But Knicks won it in 6, which is just 1 off of 5. I had Pacers in 6, Cavs in 7. I had the Celtics sweeping, but the Heat managed to get 1, which, again, we're going to talk about. And I have Celtics beating the Cavs in 6. I forget how much how many games the Celtics-Cavs series was. I had Mavs in 6 versus the Clippers, which, again, we're talking about right now. OKC sweeping. I had Mavs over the Thunder in 5. They did it in 6. I had the Timberwolves putting up more of a fight with the Suns. Other way around. The Suns putting up more of a fight against the Timberwolves and had the Timberwolves in 6, but the Suns ended up actually getting swept, which we'll talk about. And then Nuggets in 5 I had correct, and this is another big one we're going to talk about. Timberwolves in 7. And I have the Timberwolves in 6 against the Mavs as well. So again, every series so far I have predicted within one game, with the exception of the Pacers-Knicks, because I had the Knicks winning. Unfortunately, they got injured. We're going to talk about that a little bit more later. And I also made this post as well, which was me being a little bit petty. I'm not going to lie. But I made a promise to the people that commented on this video. It was December 19th, not December 10th. Okay, it's right there. But I basically made a bet with the people in the comments of that video that said, if the Clippers lose, I'm going to do a whole post about you guys, which is what this is. So again, I put, why are you booing me? I'm right. Because it has only a 36% like to dislike ratio. And people were saying that, the Clippers are going on this winning streak. He posted this 2 days after Harden has been carrying the Clippers 9 straight. Keep hating. After they lose, you can scream, I told you so. So that's what this slide is about. Harden's going to get a 10-game win streak against OKC, and they didn't. This guy thought I was a Warriors fan. I mean, I'll switch back to the camera here. I'm clearly a Warriors fan, guys. I mean, clearly, you guys that have been watching the channel, I'm clearly a Warriors fan. I've lived in San Antonio my entire life, but I'm definitely a Steph Curry bandwagon. All this Spurs stuff, just ignore it. I'm a Warriors fan. This guy said he was going to laugh to the bank when they win the championship in June. Clearly that didn't happen. This guy said that if they get injured, they're going to go to the Western Conference Finals. And this guy said that if they don't lose in the first round, I have to delete my channel, and if they lose, then he's going to subscribe. So hopefully this guy subscribed, but he was probably salty and didn't. So, but enough of reading off receipts, because I don't want to seem like a bad host or a bad guy, But just had to talk my piece for a little bit. But let's actually talk about the series itself, right? But again, the whole reason I wanted to show that is because everything that I said was going to happen happened, right? I said that somebody's going to get injured. It's going to be the same as the Nets. They're not going to make it. And what happened? Kawhi gets injured. They don't make it. And I talked about the win streak as well in a reel. I won't show the whole reel because I don't want this episode just to be me showing stuff from my Instagram. But I showed this reel, and you guys can go again and watch it on my Instagram. And I talked about how Harden had a 8-game win streak with the 70s, or I might get this backwards, but I said it in this video. A 8-game win streak. Oh yeah, it is right here. 7-game win streak with the Nets, and then 2 8-game win streaks with the 76ers, but failed in the playoffs. And that's what Harden does every single year. He goes on this crazy win streak during the regular season, and then playoffs start, and he just decides, yeah, I'm going to shoot 1 for 10 tonight. And I predicted that he's just ring chasing, right? I mean, it's clear that he's just ring chasing. Everybody makes these excuses for him leaving his teams. You know, Kyrie didn't get the vaccine. He didn't want to play with Kyrie anymore, which he still likes Kyrie. Even after the Mavs beat the Clippers, you know, they hugged it out. But Kyrie wasn't vaccinated. He didn't want to play with Kyrie anymore. Then he goes to 76ers. Oh, he had beef with the GM and the coach, so why would he still want to play there? But the fact of the matter is, he's ring chasing. So if the Clippers didn't get it done this year, I full-heartedly am not going to be surprised if he leaves this year or leaves next year or leaves sometime very soon, because he wants to go to a winning team. The Timberwolves are getting it done right now. The Mavs are in the Western Conference Finals as well. I mean, if he and Kyrie still like each other, you know, there's a chance that he sees the Mavericks winning. He tries to pair up with Kyrie on the Mavs again. He goes to the Timberwolves, but the Timberwolves aren't going to want him because they don't need him, and he's just going to mess up the team chemistry. But I'm not saying those teams are where he's going to go, but I'm saying that's where he's probably going to look, because those are the teams that are winning right now. And again, the whole reason he's changing teams is because he wants to win. But every team that he goes to just ends up losing, because they try and give him minutes thinking that he's Houston Harden, and he's not. So I also wanted to talk about Luka's defense that series, because especially in 2022 and 2023, there was a huge narrative that Luka doesn't know how to play defense. They said that Luka's offense is outweighed by his lack of defense, basically making Luka inefficient. Because mathematically, right, if it's all about net rating, and people tend to ignore the team advanced stats, which I think more people should pay attention to. Team advanced stats are super important, and that's why we're going to bring them up when we go through these next few series. But if you score 2 points and then you allow 2 points, you're essentially net zero. So what are you actually bringing to the team? Sure, you can score 30, 35 a night, but if you're allowing your opponent to score 30, 35 a night as well, then it doesn't really matter. Obviously, 30 to 35 a night is amazing, but if you're still losing a game because you let your opponent score more than you, then what's the deal? And that's why I'm really going to hammer this point home with the Timberwolves Nuggets. But I still subscribe to the defense wins championships mentality, right? And maybe that's a Spurs fan in me. Maybe I'm only 21, but y'all can call me an old head for that. But defense wins championships. And people are going to come at me, you know, the Celtics going to the finals, the Warriors winning the championship, everything like that. But the Warriors still had some good defense in the championship that they won. The Celtics still had some pretty good defense. The Bucks had Drew Holiday in their championship, which I'm going to talk about with the Bucks Pacers series because I'm going to talk about the Damian Lillard trade. And they have that classic, that historical shot at this point of Giannis blocking the dunk from DeAndre Ayton in the finals as well. No matter what way you look at it, you could say, yes, offense is the forefront of the NBA right now. But when it comes to winning championships, you have to have good defense. You have to have good defense. That's one reason the Suns and the Nets with KD did so bad. Their goal was to outscore you, plain and simple. If you score 120 points on the Nets, if you score 120 points on the Suns, it didn't matter to them as long as they could score 130 over you. 130 is more than 120. It doesn't matter if they let 120 points go through. They outscored you. That's how the game is won. If you win 121 to 120, you won the game, right? And that's been the strategy of a lot of KD teams lately, is to simply outscore. But you have to have defense. And I'm not going to go on a whole Ben Simmons rant, especially because, again, I'm joining Up the Score later, and they have essentially a Ben Simmons ban on their podcast because I have a clip about that y'all can go and watch if y'all are confused what I'm talking about. Apparently, every time Ben Simmons is brought up, they go on like a 20-minute debate about whether he's still good or not. And so now they have banned talks about Ben Simmons on their podcast, which I think is hilarious, right? But Ben Simmons won Defensive Player of the Year. You can say what you want about Ben Simmons being a pussy, about Ben Simmons should have taken the dunk on the 76ers. Ben Simmons doesn't want to play anymore. But Ben Simmons has decent defense. And that's going to add to a team whenever he actually decides to play. So, bringing it back to the original point, there was this huge narrative that Luka doesn't know how to play defense, right? And I think he's officially ended the narrative this year. In Game 2, Kawhi, Paul George, and Harden had a combined 0 points when defended by Luka. Their top 3 players, again, that they were hoping to build this team around, Kawhi, Paul George, and Harden, all 3 of them, 0 points on Luka. That's crazy, right? So, Luka did an excellent job defending in this series. I don't have the steals numbers up. I don't have the block numbers up. I just have 0 points. Think about how crazy that is. Everybody's talking about Kawhi. Everybody's talking about Paul George. Everybody's talking about Harden. These players that go for 20, 30 a night. All 3 of them together. Not a single point when guarded by Luka. So I think that ends the Luka doesn't play defense. Now, I want to talk about Russell Westbrook as well. Let me get rid of some of these tabs, though, because apparently I'm losing frames on the stream. But that's why I always record these on top of live streaming them, so that if the VOD gets messed up, I should still have the video. So, I don't know what is taking so much of my memory right now. Let me check Task Manager. Opera and Streamlabs are the only 2 things taking my memory right now. Interesting. I don't know why I'm losing frames then. But hopefully it's not too bad. So, anyway, let's get back on to basketball. Sorry about that, guys. I mean, this is a new computer, which is why we have the new layout. I was hyping up that we have more processing power, but it's saying I'm still losing frames. So, but let's talk about Westbrook, right? The reason I want to talk about Westbrook is Russell Westbrook is basically the heart of this team, right? And I already know the Clippers fans and everybody else are gonna really question that statement, because how can Russell Westbrook be the heart of the team if he's coming off the bench? How could Russell Westbrook be the heart of the team when the team is built around Kawhi, Paul George, and Harden? Well, there's a big difference between being the heart of a team and being the best on the team. When I say be the heart of the team, I mean that they carry the morale of the team with them. And that's really what Russell Westbrook has been doing for this Clippers team in the regular season and really in the playoffs. So I'm going to talk more about this when I make a full video about the Clippers and Mavs. But he really steps into his role, and he's able to, as a veteran, see what the team needs and adapt to that, right? I made a point in the Harden video, again, that if Harden and Westbrook are playing at the same time, it's not going to work. One of them is going to have to come off the bench. One of them is going to have to take a step back. And that's what Westbrook did. I'm just reading through my notes here. Give me a second. When the Clippers were losing 10 of their 18 games after the All-Star break, he said this quote. I want to read off the quote. He said, "You don't point fingers, you don't point blame. That's how I lead. We got to look within ourselves and figure out how we can better help our team." And I think that's where we start. We start with ourselves. I start with myself. And then we come together collectively. When we've done it the right way, it shows we're a hard team to stop. Ultimately, as a leader, it's my job just to hold guys accountable, hold myself accountable, and make sure that we stay together through this tough little patch that we are having. I mean, that says it right there. He calls himself a leader, and he takes that role. I'm trying to get the stat of how much they were losing when him and Harden were playing together, because that's really what I want to point out. But when they were both starting, I'm sorry. I'm trying to find the stat, but I can't find it right now. I thought I had it in my notes, but I guess not. But right when they were going on the huge losing streak was when they were playing together. And then when Russ started coming off of the bench is when they started succeeding. Oh, here it is. Okay, I found it. It was with my Harden notes, not with my Russell Westbrook notes. That's why I couldn't find it. So, again, I pointed out in my video, one of them had to take a step back. So after the trade, the Clippers started going on their 6-game losing streak. In the first game of the streak, the entire group of starters was negative and plus minus, with Russ -7, Harden -7 and Westbrook -18. Both tying up for only 17 points. The next game, Russell Westbrook was -5, going only 6 for 18 and 1 for 5 from 3, while Harden was a -15 and 2 for 5. The game after that, Harden was -6 and Westbrook was a staggering -26, and it only continued as Harden went -28 the next game that they both started. the last game in the losing streak, the plus minus wasn't bad, with Harden still at a -3 and Russ actually went positive. But Russ was only shooting 4 from 12 with 8 points, and Harden went. Oh, that's incomplete. I put Harden went 420, so I don't know what it is. 420, not 4 like the number 420, but like something out of 20. But I don't have the number before the 20. Then on November 16th, according to ESPN, Lou said that Russell met up with him to be benched, and shortly after is when they went on this 9-game win streak that everybody's talking about, which many jumped to the delusion that this makes them contenders. And that just goes to show my point, basically, is that Russell Westbrook looked at the team, said, hey, me and Harden starting together isn't working. And he knew that Harden wasn't going to come off the bench because Harden has too much of this ego around him. And so he said, listen, I'll come off the bench and let's see how that works for our team. And then they go on a 9-game win streak. Right? So Russell Westbrook, he really is the leader in the heart of the team. And with that as well, when Russell Westbrook gets going, the whole team gets going. And that's the point I wanted to make. When Westbrook is going, the whole team sort of rallies around him. And it builds the momentum, which again is super important in a basketball game. It helps you go on runs. It helps you keep the leads that you have. It helps you come down from deficits. You need momentum, and Russell Westbrook helps build that momentum, which is super important. But on the other hand, it also means that if Russell Westbrook is having a bad day, the whole team is having a bad day. So when stuff happens where Russell Westbrook gets ejected against PJ Washington like he did, or he's shooting bad, it just sort of trickles down to the rest of the team. And so Westbrook, again, he got ejected. He was letting his emotions take over, and that just led him to basically crumble. And that was a huge problem for the Clippers. We can move on to Paul George next. Paul George, he basically has the same problem as Chris Middleton, right? And what I mean by that is both Paul George and Chris Middleton have this weird thing where, let me see, since I already have Opera pulled up, if I can find the meme, excuse me, where he basically plays, is this it right here? Opera's loading it. Why is my computer being so slow lately? I gotta check my CPU and my RAM sticks. I don't know what's going on. Let me open a new tab so it's easier for you guys to see. And then if I go to Chrome, will it show it? Okay, yes it is. The Chris Middleton cycle. Plays subpar, criticized by media, starts to play better, becomes underrated, turns into prime MJ, plays subpar. Right? And Paul George basically has the same problem. Not the exact same cycle, but the same problem. Which is, there are games where Paul George will go off for 30, and he starts to get praised by the media that Paul George is going to save the team, you know, playoff P, bubble Paul George, you know, we need playoff P to carry the Clippers, and all that. Then he turns around next game, and he has 5 points. And it's like, what are we doing here, man? And my biggest problem with Paul George with that now is he's already locked down a contract. Or he's about to lock down a contract. And he knows that Paul George is smart. He knows the exact same thing that I'm going to talk about, which is the Clippers are building a new stadium, which is billions of dollars. So they, by all means, need to fill the seats. So regardless of whether or not he's shooting bad, I just realized I still have the film on my camera. Look at that. Sorry, ADHD brain right there. Paul George realizes that whether he wins or loses, he's going to get paid at the end of the day. And I called Harden a ring chaser, but I think it's just as fair to then call Paul George a bag chaser. James Harden is a ring chaser. Paul George is a bag chaser. And Paul George is going to try and get his money. And if you go to the interviews, the post-game interviews, all the comments say the same thing. The NBA on TNT guys watching the post-game interview said the same thing. It just looked like he didn't care. And then just a day after they lost, he does a podcast episode. And everybody was criticizing him because on the podcast episode as well, he was wearing a Mamba Mentality shirt. And people were just saying, you don't have the honor to wear a Mamba Mentality shirt when your team is bounced out of the first round and you just kind of shrug your shoulders and record a podcast. Mamba Mentality, you're bounced out the first round. You're at the gym an hour later trying to perfect yourself, making sure it never happens again, right? But I mean, that sums up a lot of my issues with Paul George. Is he's inconsistent, he doesn't care, he wants to get paid, he doesn't actually care about winning, he wants to get paid, and yeah. And then with Kawhi, I mean, I don't even have to talk about it at this point. Kawhi is just the glass cannon of the team. And I made the joke before that Clippers fans are the Cowboys fans of the NBA. And what I mean by that is every single year, they're like, this is our year, man. This is our year. You know, we just got Harden. This is our year. We're making trades. We got Westbrook. This is our year. And then something happens. They get injured or they just choke in the postseason. And then they go and get some other player. They do good in the regular season. This is our year, man. This is our year. And they're just stuck in this cycle of saying this is our year every single time. Listen, again, I'm a Spurs fan. I have, if I move the camera a little bit, hopefully I don't mess it up because it's hard to actually get this camera in position. If y'all see on that shirt back there, that's a championship shirt. It has Kawhi on it. Right above me, not in the camera view, I have championship posters as well that, again, have Kawhi on it. Kawhi won Finals MVP by guarding LeBron James. You don't have to tell me as a Spurs fan how good Kawhi is. I know how good Kawhi is. I cheered for him on the Raptors, even though Spurs fans hated him for leaving. I cheered for him against the Warriors because even though that guy in the post tried to claim I'm a Warriors fan, I'm the exact opposite. I'm going to cheer against the Warriors almost every single time. But I wanted to cheer for some semblance of the teams that I had in the playoffs still. So I wanted to cheer for Danny Green and Kawhi, right? And they ended up winning. And I especially cheered for him even more after he made the shot on the 76 against the 76ers. But all that to say, you don't have to tell me how good Kawhi is. I know how good Kawhi is. The question is, this dude keeps getting injured every season. What do the Clippers have to do to make sure that he actually stays healthy? Because with the Raptors, he had the load management, right? They did load management specifically for that reason. They made sure that he was healthy all the way through the finals. And now there's this huge controversy about load management. There's not technically rules against it still. I mean, you can't win any awards, but Kawhi doesn't really care about awards anyway. You know, he didn't even care that he won Finals MVP in Toronto. So the question is, if there's still technically no rules against it, do you do load management with the Clippers? And if so, how do you deal with the controversy of the load management? It's a hard decision for the Clippers, but they have to figure out how they're going to keep Kawhi healthy. They have to. Because if they don't, it's going to be the exact same thing next year. And the year after that. The year after that. And however long they keep Kawhi, because again, they're building the stadium. Everybody keeps saying blow the team up. You can't blow the team up. They're building a stadium. Everybody's locked down for 2-3 years. But... And I got bots in my chat. Fantastic. Don't care, dude. I'm deleting your message. Okay. And then Harden. Harden's the last guy on the Clippers I want to talk about. But, I mean, is there anything else I need to add at this point? Again, like, I don't want to seem cocky, but if you want my thoughts on Harden, go watch the December video. Everything I said about Harden in that video came true. Everything that I said about Harden in that video, I still think. Harden's a ring chaser. Harden destroys team chemistry. He doesn't perform in the playoffs. Yeah, I hate Harden. He can't do it in postseason, and he blames everybody else but himself for it. So, all right, enough for the Clippers talk. Now that we're already almost 45 minutes in this damn episode, goddamn, let's talk about the... Oop, wrong one. Let's talk about the Miami Heat. All right. So, obviously, the Heat managed to get a game against the Boston Celtics. How did they do that? They shot 23 from 43 from 3. 53.5% on threes, right? Which is very, very hard to do. It's up there with some other great performances for over 40 attempts on threes. I think it's it's not top 5, but it's up there like top 20, something like that. And on 43 attempts or more, because again, they were 23 from 43, they're tied for 18th best percentage on 43 or more. The Warriors obviously have the best because they're the Warriors, if you were wondering who number 1 is. And they're second for doing it in the playoffs, which is just behind the legendary LeBron Cavaliers in 2016. There were 16 out of their first 20 of that 43. So, with no Jimmy Butler, how did they do it? How did they win this game? And it was Eric's coaching. And I don't want to say his last name because I'm probably going to mispronounce his last name and people are going to start hating on me. I know how to say it. It's just hard for me to say it. And then people are going to be like, you don't even know his name. Trust me, I got all that whenever I said Jokic last time. It's hard for me to say Jokic sometimes. So, deal with it. I know his name. I'm not mispronouncing it on purpose. It's just I can't articulate Jokic. Anyway, Eric's coaching, amazing. I forget who it was, so I really apologize that I can't give you credit for this take. But they said basketball is 5v5. And I'm going to bring this point back up when we talk about the Knicks as well. But basketball is 5v5. You could have the three better players than the other team. You could have the number one star on your team. But unless your 5 can beat the other 5, it's not going to matter. You have to fully use the 5 you have on your court. And that's what the Heat did in their Game 2 win, is they were constantly passing the ball. They were trying to see who had the better looks. And by doing that, they got good looks. And so they shot 23 from 43 from 3, like I said. And yeah, I saw a bunch of people, people talk about Heat culture. That's a whole other thing that I'm not going to talk about. But, Jimmy Butler was saying, people were saying Jimmy Butler has so much aura against the Celtics that he doesn't even have to play. He can just be, there on the bench, and, it'll help his teammates, which I thought was pretty funny. But the Heat played better as a team, which is really the big thing here, right? And again, it just came down to their shooting, came down to the coaching. I put on here as well that the Heat also had a bit of mind games as well, because the Celtics were they lost 4 out of the last 6 versus the Heat at home court when they played Game 2. And the Heat sort of used what beat them in the finals in order to win against the Celtics. I put on here that the Heat played like the Nuggets in the finals, passing and moving the ball, playing a lot of small ball. Tyler Hero had his career high 14 assists and 62 points, 62% of their points came from 3, which is the third most in playoff history. So the Heat did very, very well. Better than I, again, expected them to do. I thought the Celtics were going to sweep. And Eric just turned into the GOAT coach. Still not better than Greg Popovich, Spurs fan. But the Celtics, on the other hand, they played really well as well. And I know everybody's going to joke about the Celtics have this easy path to the playoffs, which they do every single year. They played the injured Heat. They're going to play the Pacers, who also played the injured Knicks. I saw a meme that was joking about, it's the SpongeBob clip where he's on the stage and Squidward reaches his arm out and everybody stops cheering. Then SpongeBob reaches his arm out and everybody cheers again. And it was that, but it said Eastern Conference Finals versus Western Conference Finals. And it's like, nobody cares about the Pacers Celtics. Unless you're a Celtics fan, nobody cares. Because the Celtics and the Pacers both played injured teams to get here. And so, again, everybody's saying whoever wins the West wins the whole thing, right? And I said the same thing with the Timberwolves Nuggets, because I still think the Timberwolves are going to beat the Mavs. I thought whoever won the Nuggets Wolves is going to win the whole championship. But besides the point, back to the Celtics. Despite playing, having this Sugar Road, what's the term? Like Mickey Mouse path to the conference finals and probably the finals, they still did play really well. They used Drew Holiday for his strengths, which Drew Holiday, I've always said, is an amazing defender. Amazing defender. I love Drew Holiday's defense. I was really disappointed when he got traded from the Bucks, because I love watching Drew Holiday's defense, but I can't get behind the Celtics, so I can't watch Drew Holiday on the Celtics anymore. But in game 1, everybody besides Drew Holiday had 15 points. And Drew Holiday, not having those 15 points, decided he was going to get blocks, he was going to get steals, he was going to play defensively rather than offensively, which again is his biggest strength. I can't expand upon that. Drew Holiday, he just has amazing defense. I mean, if I go to team advanced stats, gotta load it real quick. I'm going to talk more about this when we get to the Timberwolves, because the Timberwolves have the number 1. But Boston Celtics, number 2 defensive rating regular season, right? Again, defense plays a huge part in winning. And Drew Holiday and Porzingis, the 2 players they picked up to build this so-called super team, huge in that. Everybody in game 2 was positive in their plus minus. Derek White as well played exceptionally well. Everybody says that Derek White is having a better playoffs than Jason Tatum right now, which I'll let you guys talk about that in the comments. Derek White, 38 game 4. Sam Hauser, though, only had 16 minutes with a negative plus minus 0 of 2 from 3 in 16 minutes. 16 minutes, only shot 2 threes, and didn't make either one. Porzingis, unfortunately, was injured in game 4, so he had a bad game 4 with only 14 minutes. And Al Horford was able to sub in. Now, Al Horford, even being 37 years old, has done a lot for the Celtics, which I think is really commendable. You know, everybody talks about LeBron James' longevity, playing at 39, I think it is. But Al Horford's doing really well, playing on one of the best teams, on the biggest stage, you know, in Boston, one of the biggest teams right now with the Celtics, this huge stage in the playoffs, and he's performing. And that really helps them win. Derek White and Jaylen Brown, again, game 5. Sam Hauser went 17 points in 20 minutes compared to his previous performance that we said, which was 16 minutes. That was bad. And the whole bench was contributing to their wins as well. Their bench was scoring. Their bench was performing. Like I said, Al Horford being one of them. Sam Hauser, again, being one of them. And they got some depth, which is really good. We're really going to help them. And they're 37 of 4 at home. So I know I talked about how they have a negative win-loss against the Heat at home, but just at home in general, they're 37 of 4. So that definitely helped them as well. But Heat Celtics, I really wanted to talk about because I saw a lot with the Celtics. Again, their bench, what they've been doing with Drew Holiday, and what the Heat did in their one win against the Celtics. Really amazing series, despite the Celtics winning in only 5. It was still a much better series than I expected it to be, and frankly, I think a lot of people expected it to be. Because with Jimmy Butler injured, we expected just the Celtics to blow them out every single game. So, but now we can go into the Lakers Nuggets. And I'm going to also combine this with the Suns Timberwolves. So the Lakers continue to fail every single year, and I get a large amount of hate from Lakers fans because you have the people that basically worship LeBron, worship the Lakers, worship Anthony Davis. But if your team's doing bad, your team's doing bad, right? Doesn't matter how much you like players. If they're doing bad, they're doing bad. I'm a Spurs fan. We're at the bottom of the conference right now. I have to accept that. Same thing goes for the Lakers. Every single time they play the Nuggets, they lose. And I've been talking about this for like the past 2-3 seasons. And only now am I seeing people actually start to speak up about it, actually start to agree with it. But coaches. The Lakers, Pee-wee the Plug tweeted out, and he did a whole, I think, 35 or even longer video about this. And he tweeted out saying, 4 coaches in 7 years. At some point, the blame has to go elsewhere. And I've been saying that for the past couple seasons, right? The Lakers, every single year, they just say, we'll throw another coach in there. That'll fix it. No, it's not. Especially when you keep recruiting these rookie coaches. I said before, when you have that much all-star talent on a team, you need a coach that knows what they're doing. You need somebody that's handled veteran talent for years, knows how to put all-stars in their place, knows how to coach. You can't just hire a rookie coach, blame the coach, and then rotate these coaches around. Now they're looking at JJ Redick. JJ Redick, I respect the dude. I have no hate towards him. You really think he's going to be able to coach the Lakers to a winning season? Rookie coach again, coming in. Amazing basketball player. I like his podcast too. He's not going to fix the Lakers for you. He's not. But these Lakers keep just plugging these coaches in, thinking it's all they need is just a new puzzle piece to put in at coaching position. It's not going to work. And so they fired Darvin Ham. They fired the entire coaching staff. What they need to do is get a new GM. I made again, whenever I was thinking about doing these in separate videos, I had something typed up in my Lakers script. And the analogy I used was, you hire an electrician. This electrician puts all these wires in your house, sets up your entire electricity. Your house burns down. You call a firefighter. Firefighter tries its best to put it out. Can't put it out. So, you get the same electrician to put in all the wiring on your new house. New house burns down. Call the firefighters again. They try and put it out. They can't put it out. You get a new house. Same electrician. House burns down. Firefighters can't put it out. And you keep calling the firefighters. And you keep going, why can't you put my house? Why can't you put out the fire at my house? What kind of firefighters are y'all to not be able to put out this fire? Well, you've had the same electrician you've had the same electrician each 4 times your house has burned down. Because 4 coaches, right? You've had the same electrician for all 4. But you don't want to fire the electrician. You want to keep the electrician that keeps burning down the house, and then yell at the firefighters, which is the coaches, for not putting it out. It doesn't make sense. Fire the electrician, get new wires in the house, which is new players, new front office, and then you can hire a veteran firefighter, because again, y'all are hiring these rookie firefighters that are straight out of the academy, that has experience of putting out these kind of fires, meaning coaching all these all-stars and these non-fitting pieces to fit. And maybe you'll see some success. It's just crazy to me how they blame it on the coach every single year. And when people say not to blame the coaches, the first thing they go to is LeBron and AD, because people joke about lay GM and all that, which could be part of it, but as much as I am a LeBron hater, I'm not going to point the blame to him, right? But my point is, you need a new roster. You need a new roster. You need a new GM. You need all new pieces. You need to just completely rebuild the team. Like, I'm sorry I'm getting so heated about this, but it's like, god damn, I've been talking about this for the past 3 seasons. Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here, guys? What are we doing, Lakers? Los Angeles. Both the Lakers and the Clippers. Get it together. Like, Jesus. Again, y'all can't just keep plugging in coaches, plugging in firefighters, and not fire the electrician, fire the GM. And it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But to that point, the coaching is still very bad. That's not me saying oh, the coaches don't deserve it. Because again, they keep hiring rookie coaches. But the coaching is terrible too, because there are times when the Lakers will have a run against them. Like, the other team will go on whatever it is, like a 15-4 run. There's no timeout called, which is one of your first jobs to do as a coach. If the other team against you starts going on this run, call a timeout, break their momentum. They're bad lineups, bad substitutions. People have talked plenty about that. No changing things up. No pep talk. Everybody joked about how Darvin Ham had a terrible speech during a timeout, and none of the players paid attention to him because he doesn't know what he's doing. But that goes back to my point. Again, Anthony Davis, supposedly top 75 player of all time, which I don't believe that either, but that's another topic. LeBron James, these other huge names on your team, they have this ego about them. They're all-stars, right? They're going to listen to a coach that makes them better. If they can tell that a coach isn't making them better, they're not going to listen, which is what happened. Anthony Davis ignoring Darvin Ham, LeBron ignoring Darvin Ham, doesn't know what he's doing. So it's bad coaching, it's bad GMs, it's bad everything. And now LeBron might be leaving. You built this team around LeBron because LeBron supposedly is the greatest of all time, what people say. I'm still an MJ fan, but these people supposedly think LeBron's the GOAT, so you have to build a championship team around him, because that's one of the reasons he went to the Lakers, because Lakers have this culture of championships, again, them and the Celtics. He wants to win more chips. So you do everything you can for LeBron, and then he's 39 years old. Him and Anthony Davis do well. Rest of the team doesn't. Yeah. I'm gonna end up repeating myself because I'm passionate about this specific topic, because again, I've been talking about this for the past 4 years and nobody wanted to listen. It is what it is. When you're a 21-year-old ginger kid from San Antonio, why would you listen to them over the scouts and people in the front office that are older and have been doing it professionally for years. I understand. But, you know, sometimes you're just right about stuff. And that's how those people get into those professional positions, is they predict things, they call things, they predict and work out whether something's going to work, whether something's not going to work, and what the reason behind it is. So, again, title of this episode, joking about Nathan knows the script. If you guys pay attention to the games, pay attention to news articles, pay attention to stuff that's happening off the court, on the court, notice the trends that have going on for years. You guys can see some of this stuff as well. Been saying for years, Lakers roster is not going to work. Lakers coach is not going to work. Because there was a trend. But with that has the Suns Timberwolves as well. The Lakers and the Suns put together, as well as the Nets from a couple years ago. I've mentioned this a couple years ago, but this is going to be the end of super teams here soon. And again, I said that a couple years ago, and I ultimately ended up being wrong because the Suns still decided to form a super team. But it doesn't seem like anybody really wants to form a super team now because they never work now. And I don't know. I'll probably do another video on that. I'll have to figure out how to collect my thoughts more on that and do a full video on it. But the Lakers lost, the Suns lost, the Nets lost. They really start to mark that territory. As well as KD, Curry, LeBron all losing as well marks the end of an era for the NBA, which, again, I'll also talk about. But if you want some of my thoughts on that right now, I already do have a video out kind of about that, which is LeBron, I think it's called What Will Happen When LeBron Retires, which is my predictions leading up to when LeBron retires, which is coming up, and what will happen after he retires. So if you want some of my thoughts on, leading into the new era of the NBA, you guys can go check that out because that's a huge topic for that video, obviously. So, already over an hour in. We still got half of these series to go, but I know I've been gone for a while, so hopefully this is a treat for you guys. Y'all get a long episode, as well as an episode with Up the Score coming here soon for me being gone so long. So now, let's jump in to Thunder versus Pelicans. So this one I don't have much to say about because the Thunder obviously swept, which everybody predicted because Zion was injured. But it does raise the question of what's going to happen with New Orleans and Zion in these next couple of years, because Zion does have a 5-year contract, but they have the contingency plan in there where he has to play a certain number of games each season. And they also have another contingency in there, which is interesting, that he can be waived after this next coming season, 2024 to 2025. Zion can be waived. But they're obviously not going to do that unless something crazy happens, because they have to pay the man $197 million. And if they waive him, then they're basically trading him for nothing. Because if he's waived, then that means any team can pick him up without having to give the Pelicans anything. If the Pelicans were going to get rid of Zion, they would want to trade him to get something in return, obviously. They're not just going to say, all right, you're not on the team anymore. Now you can make Knicks fans happy by finally having Zion on your team like they wanted in the first place, right? So, not much to say about the Thunder's Pelicans, but I just wanted to bring that up because I thought it was interesting that we're going to have to keep a close eye on Zion's contract on the Pelicans, see where this goes, because they made the play-in, but it just circles back to the same thing I said with Kawhi earlier, where it's you have to keep this man healthy. So the 76ers and the Knicks, I don't have a transition for that one, so we're just going to go right into it. Embiid also got injured, and the 76ers just always don't have the stamina in the playoffs. People joke about Embiid being a first-round merchant, second-round merchant, and then people now are talking about how he plays dirty because of, trying to grab Jalen Brunson's legs, trying to get fouls, things like that. But I really like the way Tyrese Maxey has been playing. Again, I did a reel on my Instagram. If I go here, I did this reel about Tyrese Maxey with Embiid, and it doesn't show because I'm on desktop, but I have a poll on that post that I did a poll about whether the 76ers should focus more on Maxey or more on Embiid. And a lot of people seem to agree with me that they need to start focusing more on Tyrese Maxey. Because when Embiid is not playing and they focus on Tyrese Maxey as the first option, Tyrese Maxey goes off for 50 points, 52 points, 53 points. And he single-handedly forced the series to go longer when they were in elimination, because I joke that he's Tracy McGrady Jr. because he had 7 points in 17 seconds, which is crazy. But Tyrese Maxey is an amazing point guard. And again, it circles back to Harden, where I've talked about I didn't want Harden on the 76ers because I wanted Tyrese Maxey to keep his minutes. So I really like Tyrese Maxey. I've been hyping him up for, again, years. And I think that this series really helped to show how great he is. And again, I did that poll, and people are starting to agree now that Maxey should be the first option on that team over Embiid. Even though Embiid has I call it the pity MVP, or the shut up MVP, basically. Embiid has the MVP, so people are going to still say build around Embiid, but I disagree. And that's a whole other argument that, again, I talked with Up the Score about it, that I think that MVP is undeserved. Because Embiid was in the MVP ladders for 2-3 years before that, and then got injured and fell out of the running because he got injured. And him and his team kept, crying about it like, oh, if I wasn't injured, I would have gotten the MVP, right? So Jokic should have won the MVP. Jokic should have won the MVP that year. But Embiid got it because if he didn't, then Embiid, again, would have just cried about it. So to me, that the NBA gave Embiid the MVP, again, as a pity point, and basically said, here's your MVP, shut the fuck up. And so I call it the shut up MVP or the pity MVP, because to me, that's exactly what it is. So, and Embiid fans and 76ers fans fight me to this day on it, but that's how I see it. All right, let's go into the Pacers-Bucks now. So, Pacers-Bucks, Giannis and Dame obviously injured. And with that, Bobby Portis did exceptionally well. And I hyped up Bobby Portis back in the 2020 season, 2021 season, especially when they won against the Hawks in the 2021 playoffs. Because when Giannis, it's the same thing with the Tyrese Maxey and Embiid. When Embiid's out, Tyrese Maxey performs. When Giannis is out, Bobby Portis performs, right? He was in the six-man ladder this year, lost it to Naz Reid, and Naz Reid is phenomenal. People were getting tattoos of Naz Reid, and he helped win the Nuggets series. But Bobby Portis, I think too many people underrate him. Too many people sleep on him. He's been performing exceptional. And I'm not saying he's an all-star. Definitely not a superstar yet. But he could be a starting forward or starting... I won't say starting center because he's not that big. But starting power forward or small forward on a team that doesn't have a Giannis, doesn't have an Embiid, doesn't have a Jokic, things like that. He could be a starting forward on a decent team that doesn't have a big man. And again, I don't want it to seem like I'm constantly promoting the Instagram, but if you guys want more thoughts on that, then you can go check out the reel that I have on my Instagram. So I was going to do a full video on Portis, but I thought it was going to be short, so I just talked about it now. But I can talk about some of the notes I put in that video. Bobby Portis tied Chris Middleton in the game without Dame and Giannis for a career playoff high 29 points. And then I put in today's NBA, 29 may seem like a little, especially when you have Dame and Giannis with playoff highs of 50 and higher. But again, he tied Chris Middleton this game, and it's also tied for Brook Lopez's third highest playoff game. With Bobby Portis being able to play the forward and center position, he's versatile in lineups, again, which we've seen many times with Giannis being out. He helped them win against the Hawks, like I said, and he replaced Giannis in the lineup that game. People were hesitant to re-sign him after the 2021 playoffs, which I wasn't. I told people they need to re-sign him immediately, which obviously they ultimately did re-sign him. And before the All-Star game, he was averaging 12.7 points and 6.9 rebounds. And after the All-Star game, he jumped to 16.4 points and 8.5 rebounds. He scored 28 against the Clippers coming off the bench without Giannis, 31 coming off the bench without Giannis, and 30 in the starting lineup against the Magic without Giannis with a plus-minus of 22. The player with the highest plus-minus this season is Jokic with only 8.6. Even in the games that the Bucks ended up losing, Portis had 24 points against Boston. He's averaging 20.8 points, 10.1 rebounds, and 1.7 assists in the 9 games without Giannis this season. He's averaging a 58.1 true shooting percentage, and he just has heart for his team. Now, again, I'm not going to say he's an all-star or superstar player, but those are some decent numbers. So I'll leave it at that. And then obviously everybody's looking at this series thinking, what do we do about Damian Lillard? How do we grade the Damian Lillard trade? And I said it from the start. I've said it multiple times. They shouldn't have gotten rid of Jrue Holiday. Jrue Holiday added excellent defense to the Bucks. And that's lost now. The Bucks fell into the same trap that a lot of teams do. Again, like the Suns, where they try and create this elite offense, and they miss out on defense by doing that. And in the postseason, in the playoffs, defense is what's going to win. I really, really didn't want to get rid of Drew Holiday. Really didn't want to get rid of Drew Holiday. But it's what happened. So now we got to figure out what we're going to do with Dame. We got to get defense back somehow. And we got to figure out how, the main reason they did this was to compete with the Celtics. And then Drew Holiday went to the Celtics. That's what happens. You always got to play 4D chess when you're making trades. Bucks didn't do that. All right. Now let's talk about the Cavaliers and the Magic. I predicted this would go to Game 7 because I think both teams are pretty even, right? This was basically Banchero versus Mitchell for the series. Wagner went off on Game 4, but these teams are pretty even. And it's mainly Banchero versus Mitchell. Jared Allen had an injury, which is causing some discord in the locker room. Because I think if Jared Allen is healthy, this team is much better. And I made a video about that like a couple years ago, how I said if you have Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, Donovan Mitchell, and Darius Garland all healthy on a team, that's a pretty elite team. And of course, the Cavs keep losing in the first round, so everybody doubts that. But it's because Jared Allen is injured or complains like almost every postseason. And so people are starting to get annoyed, both the fans and now the Cavs themselves. There's a bunch of articles coming out about how him being injured is pissing off the locker room. But these teams are about even, which is why I predicted the Game 7. But I do think the Cavs ultimately are better, which is why I predicted the Cavs in 7, which is what happened. And Donovan Mitchell showed excellent leadership as well. I was watching the game, and there was this moment in Game 7 where Darius Garland goes up for a 3, misses it. Mitchell gets the rebound. Instead of Mitchell going in for a drive or going for a 3 himself, he gets Darius Garland opened again, passes it back to Darius Garland. Darius Garland makes the 3. And to me, that's Mitchell being a leader. That's Mitchell saying, hey, don't let that miss discourage you. Shoot it again. Show me that you can make that shot. And he made that shot. And I really like that. I've always hyped up Darius Garland. Me and Swiss Heel have both talked about it, where he's a little bit of a mix of Tony Parker in him, and when I mentioned that Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Jared Allen, and Evan Mobley could be a really good team, I said it's because they have the same elements as the playoff Spurs team. They just need to put them together. They need to make sure nobody gets injured like Jared Allen. And yeah. And so that's why I like Darius Garland. I like Donovan Mitchell together. Donovan Mitchell, of course, was getting pissed when people were saying, I might leave. He was saying like, no, I don't want to leave. I like Cleveland. But he's a really good leader for the Cavs. He's helping Darius Garland grow. And I really like that. I really liked when he dissed it back out to Darius Garland and said, make it. But with that, though, when the Cavs play bad, they play bad. When the Cavs were losing, they were losing. Like, they had terrible plus minuses. They had terrible points per game whenever they were losing. People not showing up. When the Cavs play bad, they play bad. But this series was a defensive series. Everybody's joking about nobody wants to watch that game because for the first little bit, nobody scored over 100. But the reason for that was the defense. There was a game where they had 12 steals total. There's been no other series, I checked. There's no other series that has had those kind of numbers. The only one that's come close was 11 blocks by the Knicks in their 97-92 game. This was a defensive series. And I'm a huge fan of defense. Clearly other people aren't because they're complaining that nobody scored 100. But I love defense. So if the Cavs and the Magic somehow spark this new trend of defense coming back, I am all for that. Problem is 80 to 90% of other people aren't, right? They want to see these huge scoring games, and the NBA is aware of that. They obviously want to keep the entertainment factor of the game because that's what brings in the money, which is helping push this offensive narrative in the league. But I love seeing defense, so I love this series. And the Magic ended up having the best defensive rating in these playoffs as well. The Magic had, think about that. You have the Celtics, you have the Bucks. Obviously, the Bucks are injured. You have the Timberwolves, who had the best defensive rating regular season, which I'm going to talk about, with the Defensive Player of the Year on their team. You have the Lakers with Anthony Davis. And the Magic have the best defensive rating. The Magic. I mean, these playoffs, this series was a defensive matchup. And I really liked it. I want to see more series like this. Now, everybody's, of course, is going to disagree with that because all these narratives were being pushed about how nobody cares about this series. I cared about this series. I liked watching it. And, of course, JX Remy, being a Magic fan, he cared about it too. And he knew in Game 7 that his team was going to lose because we talked about it. And, like, at halftime, he was like, yeah, we lost, but we're going to rebuild next year. Or not rebuild, but, like, you know what I mean. Build off of this year's success. Which I thought was really good because I have the same thoughts with OKC. But I want to see more series like this with defense. So, all right. Now we can go into the Mavericks and Thunder. So, I predicted that the Mavs would win this one. I think I predicted they'd win it in 5, and they actually did it in 6. But the Thunder were a lot better than I thought they would be. I didn't think they were going to get swept. And I didn't think that Game 6 was going to be one point off either. But OKC's biggest problem is that they don't have experience, right? So I counted them out because they're so young. They don't have as much experience. But that's good for them. Because that means that they're coming back next year for sure, and they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. Shout out to my buddy Sebastian, who's a huge OKC fan, and we talked about it as soon as they won Game 6, and we both had sportsmanship about it. We were talking. He works with me, so we were like at work. We were talking trash to each other about like, oh, OKC in 6, Mavs in 6, back and forth. But I texted him as soon as the game ended, and I said, "Good game, bro. Amazing series and amazing basketball. I can't even talk shit." And I said that foul call determined the series. And he said, "I agree. How fucking stupid you gotta be to challenge that." And I said, that's what I mean. If they had somehow overturned the foul call, which they weren't going to do, and the Mavs got no free throws, then y'all would force the Game 7. So GG's, bro. And then I told him, I'm going to record a podcast today, and I'll shout you out. And he said, I appreciate you, dog, being sportsmanlike, but I'm pissed right now. And I said, I understand. And I said, that's why I didn't come in here talking shit because it was a good game. And I don't want to read out the whole convo, but because I don't know how much he wants me to share, but I did tell him I'd shout him out. So, but he said, the narrative this year was that we were never supposed to be the first seed, and we were never supposed to push the Mavs this hard, but we still have an empire of draft picks. This is only 1 year of relevancy, and offseason is going to be interesting. Our dynasty starts next season. And I said, for real, OKC is going to be a problem next year. And that kind of sums it up. People that think that OKC are frauds don't know basketball. OKC has these insane amount of picks right now. And their main problem was experience this year. You're going to have, and because most of your core is young and on contract, almost all of your core is coming back. You can run it back with this team. They have more experience. This loss shows each of them what they're bad at, or what they can improve on, so they can improve on it. Gave them the experience of playing in the playoffs under the biggest pressure ever, again, because it's the playoffs. You're playing with these OKC fans, you're playing with these Dallas fans. You have this Texas versus Oklahoma type rivalry, which adds to it. OKC is going to come back next year for sure. But both teams had huge turnovers. Both teams had huge fouls, and free throws really determined a lot of the games. Because again, when they lost, I think it was it game 5? It was either game 4 or 5. I watched, and the Mavs won because PJ Washington missed free throws, Luka missed free throws, Kyrie missed free throws. And that was really the thought process for a lot of this series, that free throws really determined a lot of it. And of course, we saw that with game 6 as well, where the Mavs won it 117-116 because SGA fouled. If both these teams work on foul trouble, both of them are going to improve. And again, that sort of goes into the experience with OKC, where the less experience you have, the more you're going to, the more problems you're going to have defending while fouling, right? So it just comes down to a lot of this series came down to free throws. So, all right, almost done here. Let's talk about the Timberwolves versus the Nuggets. One of my most exciting series I want to talk about, because, oh boy, I got a lot to talk about this one. Every single person doubted me. I don't think there was a single person besides CJ that believed in the Timberwolves going into the series. Now, there were a lot of people that, after the Timberwolves won Game 6 to force Game 7, there's a lot of people that had the Timberwolves later in the series. But I don't think there was that many people having the Timberwolves leading into the series. Now, that's why I'm going to talk my talk, because I predicted Timberwolves in 7 before the playoffs even started. I had Timberwolves, Nuggets, Timberwolves in 7. And again, that's why we joke here, Nathan knows the script. I mean, what else can I say? I know basketball. I mean, everybody else that says you don't know ball, just like Luka destroyed the Luka doesn't have defense narrative, I just destroyed the Nathan doesn't know ball narrative. Nobody can say anything else to me. Especially if the Timberwolves end up winning the championship now, like I predicted. Nathan knows ball. It's that simple. So, of course, everybody's going to talk about the referee issues. There were huge referee issues. Again, that's why I made this reel here that talked about Jamal Murray. Here, I'll just play it for you guys.
Money. Notice things like fun. Notice store keeps shining. Notice where the lights gone. What we all got in common when the shit's said and done is a dead fucking road cheddar city that we run. That's the theme of my eyes, bro.
And now I'll mute it again. Alright. But yeah. I basically called oh, Up the Score is texting me whenever I'm at. Alright. I told you I'm recording with them right after this episode, so I told them this episode was going to probably run late, so. But there were obviously a lot of referee issues. There was the technical and Anthony Edwards stare down, and then immediately right after that, Jamal Murray shot a 3 and then started doing the gun celebration, and they didn't count a tech on that. And even the announcers during the game were like, okay, so how are you going to call a tech on Anthony Edwards and not Jamal Murray? And then obviously Jamal Murray throws the heat pack. And then in Game 7, there were a lot of bad calls as well, where they call fouls on one thing and then they don't call a foul on another thing for the Timberwolves. And the Timberwolves, unfortunately, had already used their challenge almost at the very beginning of the game, weirdly enough. I don't know why you wouldn't save your challenge in a Game 7. But there's a play where Anthony Edwards went up for a drive in the lane and there was 2 or 3 defenders on him. Every single one of them slaps his arm, and they don't call a foul on it. And of course, Anthony Edwards is pissed, but they can't challenge it. And I'm really surprised that Anthony Edwards didn't get a tech for that, because he's yelling at the refs. And honestly, I would have too, because it was clearly a foul. And again, even the announcers go off about, like, you know, it's Game 7. You can't miss calls like that, but it's just what's going to happen, you know. And I had a lot of people comment on that reel that I just showed y'all, trying to defend the Nuggets, talking about how the Timberwolves had more free throw attempts. And, you know, there's this constant debate of, like, what matters more, the box score or watching the actual game? If you watch the actual game, you get the story behind the stats. If you just look at the stats, then you're just looking at the stats, right? The reason the Timberwolves had more free throws is intentional. The Nuggets kept fouling while the Timberwolves were in the bonus. So we kept getting free throws. And that was also to help break the momentum of the Nuggets, because the Nuggets kept going on these insane runs, and then we kept stopping the momentum by shooting free throws. I keep saying we just because I'm so passionate about the Timberwolves winning, sorry. But the Timberwolves ended up winning and breaking the momentum because they were drawing fouls on the bonus, and which led to free throws. And the Timberwolves were also fouling, but it wasn't in the bonus. So it doesn't matter that the free throws are higher. It matters when you're drawing these fouls. Because if you're drawing them outside the bonus, it's just going to be re-inbounding the ball. If you draw them in the bonus, you get free throws. So, again, some people watch the games, some people don't. So, but a huge part of this series that I thought was going to play more into it was home court advantage. I thought home court advantage was going to have more of an impact. But weirdly enough, almost every single team lost at home. The away team won almost every single game this series, which is kind of crazy. Because the Nuggets are one of the biggest examples of home court advantage because they're in Denver. They have the altitude advantage as well. So I really thought that the altitude was going to affect the Wolves more than it did. And of course I'm glad the Timberwolves won, but I'm really surprised by that, because I thought the altitude was going to affect it more. And that's why I thought it was smart that the Timberwolves coach actually did not call many timeouts that game. I was watching the game, and I was commenting to a friend who was with me as I was watching it, and I said that the time during the whole game was just burning. The game was going by quick, and maybe it seemed like it was going by quick just because we were excited to watch it because it was Game 7, but the time was just constantly burning, and that really helped the Timberwolves because the Timberwolves, again, they're playing at this altitude for Game 7 especially. The more the Nuggets draw this game out, the longer this game goes on for, the more it's going to hurt the Timberwolves because they have to play at this altitude. They're going to be tired more. And the opposite ended up actually happening. Oh, cool. Somebody just started a Mustang outside my window as I'm recording. Fun. But the longer the Timberwolves have to play in the altitude, the worse it's going to be. And the opposite ended up happening where the announcers were commenting on it the entire game. Jokic only sat out 1 minute the entire game. And so by halfway into the third quarter, especially the fourth quarter, he was just tired. He was drained. He was shooting up threes that were almost air balls, complete misses. But it's like, what are you going to do? Are you going to pull out your best player during Game 7 or are you going to leave him in? So you're kind of stuck. But Jokic needed his rest, right? And that's one thing that led to the win is just both teams, how much rest they had. And obviously Anthony Edwards was going off, and he had one of the highest scoring playoff games. Highest scoring playoff games in Game 1. And you know, he said he didn't like the MJ Sun comparisons, but everybody's gonna joke about it. Aaron Gordon was an excellent fit to the Nuggets during these playoffs. You know, he paired up well. He was like a mini Jokic. He was a good forward that they could put in there, so that they could create mismatches with Cat, Gobert, and the games surprisingly were, again, everybody talks about each game being a blowout. And I think one reason to that maybe just be the teams wanting to conserve their energy for the next game. Like, if the Nuggets are already losing Game 6, then they may as well just play their bench and rest so that they have more energy for Game 7. That's all I can say about the blowouts. That's my only conspiracy or thought about that possibly being the case. But yeah, with these teams being so competitive, it's surprising that they had so many blowout wins. But I think this whole series just goes to prove what I've been saying from the start, and why I have the Timberwolves winning this series, or winning the whole championship. Defense wins championships. They have the best defensive rating in regular season. It doesn't matter if you have the MVP of Jokic on your team. It doesn't matter how good your offense is. If they can get stops and turn it into a fast break, which they did all series, they're going to win because they're going to stop you from scoring, and then they're going to go score points themselves. And Cat, Rudy Gobert, Naz Reid, even Anthony Edwards getting steals, they all performed amazing on defense, and they're going to keep doing that throughout these playoffs. And hopefully if they win the championship, I can say I predicted that from the start. Defense wins championships, right? And I'm surprised that, again, going to the altitude thing, I just forgot to mention one thing. The Nuggets have the highest pace, or not the highest, but higher pace than the Timberwolves. But they didn't really push the pace in Game 7, which was surprising. Because, again, the faster that they're playing, the more intense they're playing, the worse it's going to be with the Timberwolves because they have to keep up at the altitude. But what's interesting is that all of the top 6 teams in pace are teams that have been eliminated. So maybe pace isn't important. because the other highest five teams that have the highest pace all have been eliminated. The Lakers, the Pelicans, the Magic, the Suns, and the Thunder all have the highest pace. All of them got eliminated. So I know that's just sort of a coincidence thing. I'm not going to make any sort of narrative about it, but just sort of a unique coincidence that all six of the highest teams, because now the Nuggets are eliminated, Nuggets, Lakers, Pelicans, Magic, Suns, Thunder, all the highest paces all eliminated. So, all right, last series I'm going to talk about. We're finally coming up on the end here. We're probably going to hit 2 hours for this episode, which is good because I had a lot to talk about this episode. And again, I've been gone. So I really hope y'all enjoy this episode because I'm having an amazing time making this. I think this is one of the best episodes I've made so far because I'm not saying as much. I'm not saying as much. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. I'm conveying my thoughts very well. But let's get into Pacers-Knicks, right? So, Pacers-Knicks, when I first started watching the Game 7, and I'm not going to lie, I didn't watch much of this series. I only caught a little bit of Game 6, and then I watched all of Game 7. But starting out watching Game 7, it seemed really slow, which was surprising. It didn't feel like a Game 7. Like, dare I say, it almost felt like a regular season game. Like, it seemed very slow, didn't seem aggressive at all. But then you have sort of these scuffles, right? Like, it felt very slow, and then players start getting up off of their benches and start kind of, like, arguing with each other, and the refs have to get in the middle of it. And then it just seemed like a switch flipped in both the teams. Because as they were scuffling, I was like, why are y'all being so aggressive now? Why don't you bring this energy of, like, y'all's little fight that y'all are having right now onto the court? Bring the aggression, bring the energy into the game. You know, it's Game 7. Like, let's go. And it seemed like that sort of, like, flipped both teams, and they started playing a lot faster, started actually feeling like a Game 7, started feeling more aggressive. But the main problem goes back to what I said with the Celtics and the Heat, right? Brunson had the most points per game in this playoffs. Not just the series, Brunson had the most points per game in the playoffs. And, of course, he ends up getting injured. But even before he got injured, they were defending him really well. Again, I watched all of Game 7, and there almost wasn't a single time where the Knicks were ahead. The Pacers won that entire game. And it goes back to the Heat Celtics point I made, where it's 5v5. You can't just rely on Brunson. You can't just rely on Dante DiVincenzo the whole time. You have to have a full core. And that's what the Pacers tried to do with Siakam, right? They added Siakam, and Siakam, people were calling him a superstar, and I didn't really subscribe to him being a superstar. I thought he was definitely an all-star, but he wasn't, like, amazing. And then he joins the Pacers, and this man is scoring 30-plus points in a playoff game, and I'm like, okay, I guess you're a superstar, man. I'll take it back. Siakam, you know that meme? You know the meme? It's like, I was unfamiliar with your game. I mean, yeah, Siakam did amazing. Pacers have the best. Here, I gotta go back and check this so I don't get it wrong. I believe. Yeah, they have the Pacers have the #1 offensive rating in the playoffs. And they have the #2 offensive rating regular season. But for defensive rating, they are all the way down at 24 for regular season. And they are... Where are they at? Pacers. They're 13th out of 16th defensive rating in playoffs. So, with them being so low, it was kind of crazy to me how like their defense was really good, because they're not known, they weren't known for their defense this year. They were known for their offense. But of course their offense was doing really good, but their defense was also doing really good, which was really surprising. They were able to keep Brunson at bay, and that's really all they needed. And they were playing 5v5 basketball. They were playing really well. They were playing as a team. Again, they have the best offense based on offensive rating. They have one of the best assist to turnover ratios. They have one of the best points scored off of assist percentage. They were playing as a team. They were passing the ball around. They were shooting. They were getting their assist. And that's what makes them one of the best offensive ratings. But to add to that, the defense part of it, that's a winning team right there. And again, I had Knicks beating the Pacers in this series. But looking back, I think I actually should have picked the Pacers for this. I mean, obviously I'm saying that after the Pacers won. But even a couple games in, looking at the offensive rating and their assist to turnover and their assist percentage, re-looking at those stats, I probably would have picked the Pacers if I gave them another look before the series started. So the Pacers could honestly give up a fight against the Celtics. And I know that, like, the Celtics are the favorite to win. Again, I even have them in the finals, but could go to a hard-fought Game 6 like the OKC was 117 to 116. Could even go to a Game 7 again. The Pacers, they're right under the Celtics for offensive rating. Let me double-check this real quick. They have the best offensive rating in the playoffs, and Pacers number 2 offensive rating, Boston number 1 offensive rating regular season wise. So it's going to come down to who plays the best defense to drop the other person's offensive rating. And yeah. All right, last couple things on here. We're done with the series talk. So this next stuff's only going to be 10 minutes. Again, we're probably going to go to the 2-hour mark because we're at 1:52 right now. So I wanted to just talk a little bit about WNBA. So Caitlin Clark had 50 plus points and 15 assists, which is incredible. And of course, everybody loved her before she went into the WNBA. And now she goes into the WNBA and people are hating on her. So if you want my thoughts on like women in sports and WNBA, I did a really good episode with Swiss Eel before, so you guys should check that out. But I'm starting to think that people don't necessarily hate women's sports. They just hate the WNBA for some reason. And I don't really understand, because I draw the parallel about how people are mainly hating Caitlin Clark because she started off 0-3 this season so far. And like people were posting, House of Highlights Bleacher Report posting clips of her shooting threes and everything. And all the comments are like, why would you post clips of her scoring if her team's down by 20? It's like, because they're playing the Liberty. The Liberty are the number 1 seed. That would be like the Wizards playing, again, the Celtics playing the Timberwolves. Like, what do you think is going to happen? The whole reason the Indiana Fever got Caitlin Clark was because they were bottom of the conference last year. It's like, and of course people are saying that because they don't pay attention to the WNBA. Like, a big point me and Swishio made last episode was people hate the WNBA because they don't watch it. If you actually watch the WNBA, there's some really interesting narratives. There's some really good basketball being played. And people just love the hate without actually paying attention. Because again, if you paid attention, you would see that the Liberty are the number 1 seed. Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever are the bottom seed. Like, what do you expect to happen? And again, I made the parallel where people are hating Caitlin Clark for going 0-3. I'm a Spurs fan. We have Wembanyama, and we went on a 17-game losing streak. Why is nobody hating Wemby then? Why are we putting all this hate on Caitlin Clark for going 0-3, but the Spurs went on a 17-game win streak, and we're still hyping up Wemby? Now, I'm not saying to hate Wemby because I love Wemby. I'm a Spurs fan. But don't love Wemby for a 17-game win streak and hate Caitlin Clark for don't hate. I said win streak, I think. So don't hate Wemby for a 17-game losing streak, and then don't love. I keep misspeaking. Sorry. Don't love Wemby for a 17-game losing streak, but then hate Caitlin Clark for a 3-game losing streak. It's just so backwards because she plays in the WNBA, not the NBA. But I just wanted to speak my piece on that because I'm actually really starting to watch more WNBA, and I actually am enjoying it. So I'm probably going to talk about it more on this podcast. So if you guys aren't into that, then I honestly don't even know if I want you a part as my community. Like, if you guys are gonna hate on me for talking about WNBA, if you guys are gonna hate on the WNBA just because it's women, you don't deserve to be in this community anyway. Because that's just being straight up sexist, and we don't appreciate that here at Nathan Burnett. So I'm gonna talk more about the WNBA on this channel because it really is interesting, and people hate on it for no reason. And I encourage all of you, my call to action to you, go watch some more WNBA games. People always joke about them not making any money, and things like that. And you got to watch the games if you want them to make money. And there's only like 6 teams in each conference compared to the 15 in the NBA. So go watch some WNBA games, give them some money, buy some Caitlin Clark merch. Even if you don't watch the games, I know some of y'all like Caitlin Clark, don't watch the games. Buy some Caitlin Clark merch. That gives the WNBA some money. Then we can get some more teams in the conferences, some more games. They'll start promoting the games at good times, because again, that's the other thing me and Swiss Shield talked about, is they play the games at 3 p.m. when everybody's at work, so they can't watch it. They'll start prioritizing the game times that way, just like they do with the NBA, and it will start to become more mainstream like the NBA. That's that simple. Just, if you don't watch the games, buy some merch. And if you do watch the games, good on you. Good job. And then the last couple things I have on here, I was going to talk about Bronny James, going to talk about end of the era stuff, and going to talk about the draft lottery. I think I'll kind of save that for next episode because we're already at 2 hours. Plus, I got to kind of collect my thoughts on that stuff more, think more about what I'm going to say, research it more, especially with draft lottery stuff. So I'm going to save that for next episode. But I hope you guys really enjoyed this episode. I know it's a really long one, but I hope you guys enjoy it. And I really liked this episode. I think I think I gave all my points really well. So y'all can be the judge of that. Let me know in the comments. But I really liked this episode. I think it was a good talk with you guys. So hopefully you like the new layout. I like the new layout. Go follow me on Instagram, like I said before. All that good stuff. And I will see you guys in the next one. Nathan Burnett, episode 23, guys. Peace out.